What do you mean when you say all that, Mr. Nakachinda, as far as, scrutinizing and making sure that the list of people that are interested are well looked into? And I ask this because last time the PF lost a president, there was some sort of confusion. There was chaos. Again, we were at a point where there was one faction that wanted this person to lead. There was another faction that wanted that other person to lead. How do you avoid a similar situation, seeing that now there's another looming convention with a lot of potentially a lot of interested parties here?
I don't know why you love the word factions. We may have to increase our vocabulary around these issues. When there is a competition for leadership, obviously in a group, there will be people who clearly will say, my preferred candidate is this one. That's not a faction. It's a democratic right of every member of Patriotic Front at an appropriate time to be able to say, this is my choice. And when they decide to start campaigning for that particular person, you can't call it faction. And you can't call it confusion. Unless you don't understand what democracy is.
Is it democratic to have two separate conventions and have a different decision decided, and then there was another one that had to take place that was stopped by the courts, and then for you to get to a final decision to have Edgar Lungu as president? That's what I'm referring to. So when you're saying I'm being very somewhat shallow with my vocabulary, with how I'm describing the events of the past.
My brother,
I think we need to be honest with each other.
Are you paying attention to the questions you're asking?
Yes.
You asked me a question about Mao Sampande, Chabinga, and so on. I answered.
Yes.
Then you asked me a question to do with the process that was initiated just after the elections and people offered themselves for presidency, and that they seem to have been groupings of people saying this one should lead, another one should lead. Those are not factions.
I think you misunderstood what I was asking you. I asked you that question, and out of the backdrop, I referenced the time the other president died, who is Michael Sata. When Michael Sata died, that's where we are.
Right. Okay.
So I think that's where we have a misunderstanding here. Now that you understand my question, please go ahead and respond to it.
Even that in itself.
Yes.
Okay. They were, you may call them factions, but there were people who expressed a desire to lead the party at that particular point. They were robust. There were, all kinds of, happenings. But the major aspect, if you were to analyze, that came to the fore was the fact that there was a vice president who was not left to act as president. And then there was a debate within this government, the state apparatus, particularly the Office of Attorney General, who gave an opinion that the acting president at the time, who happened to have been Edgar Chagwa, who was Minister of Defense and Minister of Justice, needed to hand over the instruments of power. It is that component that ushered in now seemingly some power play. Okay, but when it came to issues of the issues of selection, the suspension of the then Secretary General Edgar Chagwa and some of those maneuvers are the ones that seem to have ushered in what seem to have been confusion. But otherwise, in a democratic society and in a democratic institution, when there is a process towards electing a leader, you cannot stifle members at a particular time, especially when the conference date is announced and the date of campaign is announced and people are campaigning. You can't stifle members from expressing themselves that I prefer this one because I think they have these qualities that will help the party moving forward. So if you were to speak to those issues, there are many factors which may require a single program for us to discuss to benefit from that history, and I appreciate the fact that you asked, to benefit from that history so that some mistakes that were made during that time are not repeated moving forward. I can only assure you that privately, as a party, we have looked at all those factors. We have even looked at the issues to do with the happenings after the loss in 2021, and we have drawn lessons. And we are marching towards this conference and towards 2026, wiser than we may have been before these things have happened.
Mr. Nakachinda, when are we possibly going to have this conference?
Well, I don't think I'm in my place to be able to preempt decisions that have to be made by Central Committee. But I can only tell you that Central Committee met, and one of the things that we deliberated was the fact that we have a funeral. We haven't even put to rest our leader, and to that effect, in detail, the issues of the inevitable holding of the conference will be discussed, and I think parameters and everything will be put in place by Central Committee.
I want to get your comment on incidents that happened last week. We saw PF faction President Robert Chabinga, who threatened to deal with PF faction leader Given Lubinda, and the leaked audio, which has also gone viral. He issued some threats when he made that presser. What's your comment to that? What's your reaction to Mr. Chabinga's press conference and the threats he made to Honorable Lubinda and Sishua as well?
Well, I think it just confirms the criminality that Chabinga is involved in, supported, if not sponsored, by his own claim, the state and the president, the UPND, who have also been trying to, exonerate him and cleanse him, and want to even turn what is obvious to suggest that this is an AI, orchestrated audio and all the nonsense that Zambian people have been subjected to. But this is basically a confirmation. The question I was expecting from you was to say, now it looks like this confirms the criminality that Chabinga is involved in, sponsored by the state and the UPND. Because he himself has put it on record. Nobody in UPND has disputed that. Everybody in the UPND from top to bottom, including State House, have disputed that that's not an original audio. It is the Zambian people who have analyzed, and with today's technological advancement, people have been able to also engage technological in terms of IT to be able to establish that that is an original audio. It should worry you and worry Zambians that the entire head of state would be mentioned to have participated in a process of wanting to bribe judges. You understand? To have a society misfit like this boy called Chabinga sent to South Africa during such a very solemn moment where we are mourning a former head of state. There could be issues that are still to be resolved around the burial and all that. That's a separate issue. But to engage into criminal activities, including going to mobilize surrogates and so on to disparage the Lungu family and President Lungu in his death, it's an Zambian. It's unheard of. And then the president is parading himself here when stakeholders go to meet him that I haven't been moving because I'm mourning. What kind of mourning is this? Where, going by his own words, he says he's an elder of the church. I listened to an audio this morning where he was saying to the ones who were swearing in, I think one of them is an ambassador to Brazil, that we need to be genuine Christians who does correct things during the day and also correct things in the night. Not Christians who do certain things during the day and does evil things during the night. Mr. President, can you speak to us Zambians over your purported assigning Chabinga to South Africa to do the activities that have been reviewed in that audio? To a point where he was expressing that as a head of state, you are so desperate that you called him in the night 12 times.
I want to play an audio for you, Mr. Nakachinda, from State House, since you brought it up regarding State House and their stance. We heard from Mr. Clayson Hamasaka. Let me just play back an audio for you, his response to the audio, and I'd like you to respond to it since we're talking about the audio now.
Go ahead.
So this was Mr. Clayson Hamasaka's response to the audio and the allegations of Mr. Chabinga being caught 12 times by the president.
While I cannot vouch the authenticity of that audio,
I'll just play back again because Mr. Nakachinda was wearing his headphones.
While I cannot vouch the authenticity of that audio, but I can tell you in no uncertain terms that none of what is being contained in there is true about the president. None, as in none. Have we ever called someone in your circles 3-4 times in missed calls? Among the issues in there is that the president called someone who is already in there. He called them, I think about 12 times or so around this law too. I'll be honest with you. We have really lowered our levels of politics. From what we normally see. There are so many development programs that are going on everywhere, but people concentrate on no, the video there, no, there's an audio there.
What's your response to it?
My response is that this is pure playing to the gallery. He's saying that he can't talk to the the genuineness of the audio, but that whatever is said there, none happened. This is Hamasaka, and the phone calls were after midnight 02. Hamasaka was sleeping at his house. You understand what I'm saying? He can't speak authoritatively to matters that happened after midnight. He knocks off at a particular time. Our working hours in Zambia is 8 hours for those who are formerly employed. So from morning to 17, if he has been stretched, maybe he can go to 20, 21. After midnight, what we know in Zambia is that in Wakaziz, Wamina is after midnight. And you know when I use the word Wakaziz, after midnight is a superstition. You're expected to finish your business formally at a particular time. But the boy said, I was cold, I was even sleeping. I woke up maybe in the tunda. Then I'm 12 missed calls kwa president. 30 missed calls kwa Friday, the DG. Just those allegations are too grave for us to start debating a guy who has been called on the phone and says, I can't confirm, and I can tell you that what he has alleged is not true. Okay? By now, Chabinga, if the UPND, the way we know them and Misaka in the chamber, if they were not involved, Chabinga would have been in sales. Small boys have just said things which are not as grave as what Chabinga said over the president have been picked up and thrown in jail. Some of them have disappeared and we don't know where they are. For doing what? For saying things that are considered insults towards an elder person. Though the law does not define what you can say an insult and so on, because some of the things we say in Bemba, in Tonga, and so on, they may not really in our culture be an insult. You have heard the president himself, speak. One time he was at a rally in Kasama. We condemned because we thought that, he's trying to get into, speaking a language whose culture he may not fully comprehend, and therefore he may make a mistake. We have people like Kapwepwe, this boy, Waimi, that everybody's talking about. Where is he? He's not only been arrested, but he has disappeared. For doing what? For saying things that people considered uncouth. But this man has implicated the president in criminality. And is exonerated by a phone call between you and Hamasaka. And all of us Zambians should take that story as something that should just pass by that statement. The president is being put at the center of the criminal activities of Shvinga, and he must answer for himself. Nobody can answer for him over a phone call between him and the Shvinga. Unless Hamasaka says that when the president is making a phone call, they hold the phone together. He is this side listening to what the other one is saying and what he's saying. If that is the approach, yes. Meaning that Hamasaka wakatuma phone wa president, wamagwira phone pamoja na eve. But the boy said, ananitumina phone wa president. After that, wanitumina nuza ati, utumine na DG wa intelligence, Friday nyambe. And that's how that assignment was given. And then he further went to say, wananuza utitika kumane mairo. But later on they said, no, it cannot wait for tomorrow. You were looking for flights. And in the end, when they checked on the manifest, they found that South African Airways, which was leaving early in the morning, had too many PF members. That's how he ended up in the Airlink. In the Airlink plane, when he went there, he says, PF, Abengi, Katoto, Shanshan, and so on. And that whole has been confirmed. So, in this case, we have even passed the stage of whether the audio is genuine or not. Mm. We are at the stage of the fact that the president is at the center of this criminality. You understand? And we can't have the presidency involved in criminal acts. You understand what I'm saying? It's an abomination.
Speaking of criminal acts, Chibuli MP, Honorable Mulenga Fulu, has reported Mafinga MP, Honorable Robert Chabinga, to the police for threatening violence against Emmanuel Mwamba and historian Dr. Sishua. Do you think the police are going to summon Chabinga?
Before all these people came to report, that very day when the audio came out, because I've challenged the police, the IG, and the other senior officers at Central Police, when they call me for all these stupid charges they give us called seditious practice. Last time I was being called to the police to exonerate myself over an audio, an interview I had in South Africa over our late president. And there were discussions between the state and the family, and the party was involved. And in the discussion, when we were trying to look at the possibilities of this process of burial, the family raised an issue of the fact that considering, undertaking a postmortem. And that was expressed. And then I'm being summoned at the police. So I asked them, I said, how come you have the audacity to call me for a conversation that I held on a TV station in South Africa, but you never arrest any UPND person when they actually commit direct offenses? For me, I am in court, one of the cases, where I was arrested without anybody complaining. I was kept for 13 days, 2 days in Westwood, about 11 days at Lusaka Central Police. During that time, as it has been reviewed in court, that is when they went and fished out some surrogates of UPND to be listed as those who reported dates or days after have been arrested. How come Chabinga, even when there has been 6-7 people who have reported, I can confirm our MCC Kibombwe with, of course, President Wright Musoma, went to Central Police, to the DCIO. The reception they received there was like a reception from a UPND cadre. You understand? From a UPND cadre. And further, letters were written. Yesterday, we had people, of course, now because this has become a national matter, we got reports that in Central Province in Kabwe, there are people that reported Shvinga. But Shvinga is still boasting, telling everybody. He even orders the police, I'm going to undertake aggravated robbery against senior PF members because in his whatever mind, they have planted an idea that there is money somewhere roaming within PF. And therefore, I'm going to undertake an aggravated robbery. Police stay away. And the police are complicit to it. You understand? IG Musamba, we have already said from before, this man is tired and retired. He will not help, not only to ensure that the rule of law prevails, but because he's a UPND cadre, he will usher this country into chaos. We have warned Misaka in the HNMA several times that let's not take advantage of the Zambian people and their desire and passion for peace. Other jurisdictional countries that have ended up in chaotic situations, they were also peaceful, but they were stretched because the moment the rule of law does not prevail or is selectively applied, it renders those who feel oppressed to start thinking it's like, survival of the fittest. If all of us are equal before the law, when we go before court, you know that if I was unlawfully arrested by the police, at least I'll have justice before the court. That confidence from the opposition especially, and many Zambians, we don't have. When you go in a court, you even know that I've been brought now to the slaughter. This magistrate, we know him. Because we live in the same society. We live in the same society. We know each other. We live in the same neighborhood. With the judges, we live in the same neighborhoods with magistrate, and we know affiliations. The only thing that will make this country sane is that sacred institutions like the judiciary must be paged of any attempt to have in the state interfere with his operation.
I want us to
because that's the conscience of our society. If the conscience of our society is soiled by what now is happening in this country, how is it that we are going to have a situation where cases that involves leaders of PF are adjudicated upon with supersonic speed towards jail? But a PF matter that has to do with the institution, it has taken over 3 years without being attended to. What's going on? I mean, unless we are taken for a ride, all of us.
Mr. Nakachinda, still on the issue to do with the audio, the same audio has been submitted before the South African court by the Edgar Chagbalungu family lawyer. How do you think this will do to the diplomatic relations between Zambia and South Africa?
Well, I think the family took the matter before court because that is highly contemptuous. There are, allegations and proposals of wanting the judge presiding over the matter to be bribed and all those things. I think to protect the integrity of that process, the court needed to be made aware that the family is, perturbed by the fact that there could even be room for a judge to be bribed. There could even be somebody have the courage to say the judge needs to be bribed. If we give the money, they'll make a decision in our favor. Now, when it comes to diplomatic relations, Misaka in Hichilema has failed in the region. We all can see, I think there's even been reports that he's making efforts to try and, clean up the diplomatic relationship with Zimbabwe. At some point, we had even reckless reports of foreign affairs minister going to Zimbabwe, carrying their own water, their own snacks, and all those things because they can't trust Zimbabwe. Blatant, scandalous, behavior that will not help in making the relationship better. With South Africa, CHABINGA's audio, not only that, even the engagement over the funeral of President Edgar Chagbalungu. I think better public pronouncements and engagement would have been handled in such a way that even this impasse will not reach where it is. On the diplomatic front, Mr. Ika Hichilema has, failed. Today we are being threatened by America in relation to our travel. There is a threat that Zambians will not be allowed, to have visas more than 3 months, and maybe even put a travel ban on Zambians. Where is it coming from? It's not only coming from issues of corruption. It's also coming from the fact that diplomatically our engagements may not be sound. Zambia has been a shining light from 1964.
You've given us 2 examples of relationships that might have been, not handled well in the region. Zimbabwe, and now there's this issue to do with South Africa. Which other country would you cite besides these 2? Are you rating his failure to have a diplomatic relationship with our neighbors beyond that? And obviously with the Americans, we've seen the shift in what's going on with the Trump administration. There's so many countries that have been put on that list. Don't you think you're judging them harshly when it comes to the American issue?
First of all, we should not have even featured. Zambia, as you know, you have grown up in a country that has remained a shining light and respected globally in relation to our diplomatic engagement and also our championing of peace and so on. We were never a subject of having, challenges with our neighbors or any other country. Remember that from the early years after independence, President Kaunda started championing a policy which now became a continental policy, the non-aligned movement, you remember? To make sure that we're friends with everybody. To have, for example, the foreign minister or international relations minister of South Africa sued by a government over a matter of the burial of President Edgar Chagbalungu. It's a diplomatic blunder. You understand? He was sent by President Cyril Ramaphosa to Zambia to engage the president. You know what happened? On assumption, the president wanted to play to the gallery. And he called media houses to State House, private and the public media houses. And when the message, which was supposed to be confidential, was being shared, we are told that it's private media and everybody was chased from State House. And they tried to now make, as it were, play to the gallery by creating an impression that the government of South Africa had come to deliver a message that they don't want the body to be buried in South Africa. When the message was very clear, as government, we have no say on these matters. The final say has to come from the family, because that's what the